In the time of the Roman Emperor Heraclius, according to ancient histories and Oriental tradition, the pernicious doctrines of Muhammad had gained a firm foothold in the Orient. This firstborn son of Satan falsely declared that he was a prophet sent from God, and thereby led astray the lands of the East, especially Arabia. The poisonous seed which he sowed so permeated the provinces that his successors employed sword and violence instead of preaching and exhortation to compel the people, however reluctant, to embrace the erroneous tenets of the prophet. When Heraclius returned in triumph from Persia, he brought back with him the cross of the Lord. He remained for a time in Syria, and while there ordained the venerable Modestus, Bishop of Jerusalem. The churches in the Holy City had been overthrown by Khosroes, the wicked satrap of the Persians. Heraclius authorized Modestus to restore these and himself arranged for the necessary expenditure. At this time, Omar, son of Khattab, the third in succession from Muhammad, and the heir both of his kingdom and his false doctrine, had already seized Gaza, a famous city in Palestine, with a countless force of Arabs. With his own legions and a vast horde whom he drew along with him, he then invaded the territory of the Damascenes and seized Damascus. Heraclius himself was at this time in Cilicia, awaiting the turn of events. When the emperor was informed that the Arabs, swollen with presumptuous pride because of their vast numbers, were invading Roman territory and not hesitating to claim the cities thereof as their own, he realised that his strength was not sufficient to encounter such a host and to curb their insolence. He preferred, therefore, to retire in safety to his own land, rather than to trust the vicissitudes of war with unequal forces. But the afflicted citizens had looked to him for their only protection, and on his departure, the violence of the Arabs increased to such an extent that in a short time they had seized all the country from Laodicea in Syria to Egypt. In another work we have explained with great care who Muhammad was, whence he sprang, and the circumstances which led him to the presumptuous folly of claiming to be a prophet sent from God. His manner of life and conversion, the lands over which he ruled, and the duration of his power have also been described. Who his successors were, and how those who follow him in the same error spread these wicked doctrines throughout practically the whole world, has likewise been set forth, as will appear clearly in the following pages. Certain circumstances had made easy this conquest of the Orient. A few years before it took place, the Khosroes, just mentioned, invaded Syria by force of arms. Khosroes destroyed cities and burned the surrounding places. He wrecked churches and imprisoned the people. Then he took the holy city, put to the sword 36,000 of its citizens, and carried away with him to Persia the cross of the Lord. He likewise led away with him as captives Zacharias, the bishop of Jerusalem, and the surviving inhabitants of the city and the surrounding country. This powerful Persian potentate had married Mary, a daughter of the Emperor Maurice. The latter was closely bound in the ties of friendship to the blessed Pope Gregory, who received one of the emperor's children at the sacred font. For his wife's sake, Khosroes received baptism and maintained an alliance of friendship with the Romans. As long as Maurice lived. At length, the emperor was treacherously slain by Phocas Caesar, who succeeded him on the throne. Thereupon, the king Khosroes invaded the empire with an armed force and laid waste the lands belonging to it. For he abhorred the perfidy of those who had received as ruler a wicked man, even yet stained with the blood of his lord. He looked upon them as sharers in a secret understanding and confederates in the same guilt. His wife, too, spurred him on in his desire to avenge her father. After he had conquered the other lands which were under Roman domination, he took Syria last of all, as has been stated, and either killed the people or led them away with him to Persia. Hence, when the Arabs entered the land, they found it abandoned and immediately took advantage of the unexpected opportunity to bring it under their power. They visited the same fate upon Jerusalem, the city beloved of God, but they spared the few inhabitants who still remained there, in order that these people might serve them by paying heavy tribute. They allowed the conquered people, however, to restore the ruined churches, to have their own bishop, and to follow the Christian religion without restraint. During Omar's stay in Jerusalem, he made careful inquiries of the citizens, and above all of the venerable bishop Sophronius, the successor of Modestus of pious memory, now deceased, about the site of the temple of the Lord. Titus, the Roman prince, is said to have destroyed this with the city itself. They showed him the place and pointed out the few remaining traces of the ancient pile. Thereupon, he directed that it be rebuilt and set aside a sum sufficient to defray the costs. He had workmen summoned and assembled building material of various kinds, of marble and woods as suited his pleasure. Within a short time, the building was successfully finished according to the plan which he had in mind, just as one may see it today in Jerusalem. He then endowed it with numerous rich possessions. The revenues derived from this source were to furnish the means for keeping it in repair, renewing old parts, and maintaining ever-burning lamps through the care of those who served in the temple. But, as nearly everyone is familiar with the form and exquisite workmanship of this edifice, it is not within the province of the present work to consider them. Both within and without this building, there are monuments of great antiquity, with Arabic inscriptions in mosaic work which are believed to be from this period. On these, the name of the builder, the costs, and the dates, both of the beginning and the completion of the structure, are plainly set forth.